Rats playing round 2 of a Slamato of elimination. Gonna play the King's Indian attack and see what happens. Okay, if he plays d5, he's crawling all over e4, so it'll take me a while to prepare e4, meaning I may not be developing my dark squared bishop right away. Well, he is allowed e4. So if he plays d5, I've got to make a commitment, but I'll figure it out. Since he's allowed it, I'll just avoid a lot of the complications. Okay, good. So now I'm going to play it slow style and put the bishop on e3. Okay, there it comes now. Let's see. Bd2 takes. He's on it. I would drop a pawn, so I've got to make a commitment. I can play e5 here, and I will play e5 because his knight doesn't really have a good square. Okay, see, his knight has to go back. Now, do I want to commit to d4? Not necessarily. I'm happy to keep the pawn on d3 for now. He's probably going to play f6, in which case I'll probably just capture it. Well, he's going to make me play d4. Okay, that's fine. And there comes f6, which is fine. Okay, d6 or e6 is hanging. Nothing's guarding it. If I go wave a knight at it, what does he play? Queen d6. Then I play bishop f4. He could play e5 in response. So I don't see any reason to go after just yet. Let's see. I think what I want to do is get a rook on the C file in case the D file in case that file opens up. But actually, I want a rook on the E file. That just takes away bishop a6 stuff by him to gain a tempo and drop the bishop into d3. Okay, I've used a minute more than he, and I'm not saying too much, sorry. I'm kind of enraptured with this game and not talking. Okay, I'm delaying knight g5 because he could do e5 and start getting his pieces activated. So he still hasn't castled. I haven't moved my queen. I haven't moved my queen rook, but they're coming. I may be playing bishop f4 next move. It has some tricks to it because it pressures e6. So he can't really play e5 here because I take on e5. He takes back with the knight, and then I can play bishop f4, and he can take on f3 with check, which is fine, and I just take back with the knight, and I've got this pressure on the e file, and his queen's under attack. So I think rook e1 was a wise move in this position. It's making him consume a little clock time. There was no need to rush into bishop f4 right away. Let's just make a threat, let him try to worry about it. So I've got the bishop anchored in on e3. He can't chase it out. If he takes on d4, I'm tempted to take with the pawn because I'll have a potential tempo with rook c1, developing my rook and attacking his queen. And I don't mind having an isolated d-pawn here because he has a backward pawn on the open file. I could take with the knight, and then if e5, then I can go into f5, and he's got a pawn center that not all that shaky, but I think I get better piece placement if I'm playing for bishop f4. So, and keeping a pawn on d4 keeps his minor pieces out of c5 as well as e5. So very, very slight advantage for white. Black has one weakness on e6, and how to guard it. Castle, rook e8, bishop moves to d8 or d6. It's kind of time consuming. He might need to play bishop d6 here. Then I can play bishop g5, and I'm threatening e6. Then he kind of has to maneuver around a little bit. King f7. That just looks ugly. But then he's ready for rook he8 and king back to g8. So bishop d6 might be his best move here. And good, he's spent about 3 minutes on this. He smells a rat. All rats. Well, he didn't play bishop d6, which helps me because now I'm happy to trade the dark squared bishops if he's preparing bishop d6 in response to bishop f4, because then he can't castle kingside. Maybe he's not going to now. I'll just play bishop f4. It's a kind of a bad piece, so and a lot of my pawns are on dark squares, so I don't mind trading the dark squared bishops off. Okay, good. He's done what I want, and now I'll take it. Now if I play knight e5 next move, he can't castle queenside because he's going to get forked. And so that looks good. I'm not ready to pile up on e6. It's not going anywhere. I'll just seize the outpost for the knight. Now my knight has just a great square. Now I don't want to necessarily play knight d2 to f3 because that'll allow him to get his knight in on e4. So looking for a plan here. Knight e5 also prepares queen a4 check for what it's worth. He's got to keep his knight on f6. Maybe queen h5 check could lead to some nuisance value. So what's he going to do? He's burned more time on the clock, so I have 2.5 minute edge on the clock now, which could come in handy. 9 minutes is enough to play a game, but okay, so he's going to do that, which is fine. Now I can pin it, and that ties him up. If I pin it, then he's all bottled up. Of course, I could play, now I can play knight to f3. If I play queen a4, he might play a6 and plan b5. So I can save the queen maneuver and just play knight f3. I think that's perfectly logical. Just keep now I can keep the knight on e5, and maybe as an alternative I can plan queen e2 and more pressure on e6, h4, bishop h3. I've got some possibilities there. And if he tries knight back to f6, I can check him and mess his knights up a little bit. Knight 8 d7, then I can trade a knight. He puts the knight back on d7, and I plop the other knight into e5. And then I trade him down to an ending where he's got one weakness, e6, and I have the better bishop. So If anything, I can go for that. I'm about to get a 3-minute advantage on the clock. That helps, because then I don't have to rush my moves. But White has a decent game here. And I'm also threatening knight g5 in some degrees, because knight g5 plans some tricks on putting a knight on f7, which I can't do now. So, in order for him to castle kingside, what's he going to do? Knight g6, accept double pawns on g6. Knight takes knight, pawn takes knight. Then I get knight g5 in, and he can't castle again. Does his bishop need to go to c8 at some point? He's okay, because he took. That's fine. That's fine with me. Now, okay, now he backed up the queen. Now, for what it's worth, I have 2 queen checks. Do they go anywhere? Queen a4 check. You can't play bishop c6. You can play queen d or knight d7, and then I can play knight takes knight. He plays queen takes knight. I play rook takes e6 check, and his queen is pinned. So his alternative to knight d7 is to move his king, and then he can never castle. Okay, so then queen h5 check. He has g6, and knight takes g6 just doesn't seem to lead anywhere. He takes with the knight. Oh, then I take on e6 check. Let's see, check, knight, the pawn there, knight takes. Right, check, pawn there, knight takes, rook takes check, king f7. That was rook's guarded, so I can't play rook takes on g6 and pick up the piece. Okay, queen a4 check. That'll have to do. And I still have close to 2 minutes on the clock. He has to move his king here or drop a pawn. And he saw the trick. Okay, so this is fine with me that he saw the trick. Now I need to get my bishop into play, and I'm not worried about him going to g4 anymore, so I'm going to play h4. The idea with this is to be able to play bishop e3. Then he may try a6 with the idea of b5, but I can live with that. Okay, so h4, a6, bishop h3, b5, and I bring the queen back to d1 and go from there. Okay, two and a half minutes approximately on the clock, and as expected he played b5. Okay, so what I need to do is well, just let him take on b5. Let him play b5. I'm going to put the rook on. I'm going to hold the bishop back for a moment and just discourage him from opening up the file, because I'm going to transfer my queen to either f3 or g4 after he plays b5. So, got to keep d1 free for the queen. I'm just going to play rook c1 and let him figure out what I'm doing. Okay, he's going to play b5 here, I'm relatively sure. Okay, now I'm going to be choosing between queen f3, which renews the threat of check, winning a rook, or I'm going to play queen g4, which further pressures E6 and G7 at the same time, keeping his knight tied down. And I want him to play moves like C4 to shut the C file off, because that'll just lock another one of his pawns on a white square. So I'm hoping he does something like that, because he really doesn't want to take on D4 and just give my pawn. Okay, very good, thank you. So let's see, if I play Queen F3, I'm threatening a knight check, winning the rook. So he's either got to move his king, or he has to move his rook. And if he moves his rook, I don't need to check him. I can just start piling up on H3. And if I play Queen G5, I'm not really threatening anything. So I'll just play Queen F3, just make him spend some clock time. And I may play A3 in here in a moment just to discourage him from advancing those pawns. Okay, so he played there. Okay, so since he's now blocking a square, his bishop could guard E6. I may play bishop H3 here. The idea is that I'm going to follow up with Queen F7, and if he trades queens, I have a tempo on his rook, and then I collect the pawn on E6. So bishop H3, just keep him worrying a little bit. So if anything, I'm also threatening knight F7. I don't even have to put the queen on F6. I can just play knight F7, rook G8, bishop takes E6, knight takes E6, rook takes E6. Wait a minute, that's not possible. Yeah, it is. Okay. Knight F7, rook G8, bishop takes E6, knight takes E6, rook takes E6. Now my knight could be pinned, so I'm not going to let it get pinned. I'm just going to offer to trade queens. There you go. Let's get some wood off the board. And I still have a minute advantage. This is a better way to do it. Go directly into an ending where he just goes into an ending down a pawn and is suffocated. Okay, so now queen takes queen check. Knight takes, or king takes, and then knight F7, rook G8, knight G5, and I'm on E6 3 times. How does he save it? He doesn't. He puts his king on D6. I say, wait, queen takes, king takes, knight F7, rook G8, knight G5, king D6. I was gonna let him stew in his juice. I'm gonna double up on the E file. I'll get another attacker on E6. Okay, now he is threatening to take my queen, so I got to deal with that. I could play Queen E8 here. Then he's kind of in Pin City. Queen E8, he can't move his bishop. He's all tied up. And I'm threatening knight C6 check. Yeah, let's do that. He has knight G3, that's a nuisance. And where's my queen go? It doesn't. Okay, so sometimes you got to be careful. Now I've used up my time advantage. Queen takes. I might have to do it. Yeah, I'll just take it with the queen. Trade queens and double my rooks and let him figure out what he's doing. He's just got this horrible game. Okay, so now I double rooks and just keep the squeeze on, so to speak. You can't do much. Then I'll just improve my position slightly with A3 and something I was planning earlier. Yeah, 15 minutes is kind of a shame. I could have probably worked out a clear win of that pawn. I think I may have had one earlier, but I wanted to get into an ending. And that's fine. He just can't do anything. You don't have to wipe these people out. You can just leave them without any resources, and you play on the edge of borderline draw sometimes, but if you're careful, you convert the point. But, you know, we're down to a 5-minute game on this, so it's not that simple. One side can easily make a mistake, and that's the game. Okay, h6. What's he planning? h5. Well, that eventually opens up some lines for me. Okay, I'm just going to play a careful a3 here and let him think. Okay, he didn't think long. Okay, so now to strategically handle this, I'm going to shift to getting down to the 7th rank. Rook f3 plans rook f7 or knight f7. Well, that doesn't bother me too much. His g5 pawn is now a weakness. So suppose I take it and then guard my bishop, either put it on g4 or king g2, and then I'm threatening knight f7. Okay, how does he attack that? Okay, knight h7. With the idea of knight f6. I'm just going to play king g2 here. Yeah, giving up all my time. Ooh, look what I missed. Okay, these things happen, so check. Let's stop these things in their tracks. Okay, so for what it's worth, I have a knight fork. But he can play rook g8. I have to play bishop g4. Or I can play knight h5, or knight h6 I mean. Okay, he's threatening g4, trapping my bishop. So how about if we just check him, take his bishop, and collect the pawn on e6? That seems to be the simple way. Check. We can't do that unless my knight gets trapped. Let's see. Did I miss something? Knight e7. He takes on h6 with check. I'm on his rook. And my knight doesn't have a flight square. Oh, rats. Okay, bishop takes. He takes the bishop. And I play rook h8. He takes my knight, and I pin him. There it is. Okay, I found the win. Unless he finds another way to trap my knight. Push, king takes, push. I gotta give up the knight. What a lucky guy. Messed me up. Okay, time to get some pawns for it and run my pawns. Let's see. Knight. No, just knight e7. Then knight g8. Okay, I can't say much now because flag is falling. Okay, where's he going? He's trying to get some counterplay. Well, fine, I'll just start shoving my pawn. If he goes after b2, that pawn gets awful dangerous in a hurry. Rook b1, g5, rook takes g6. Rook back, g7, it queens. Okay, so now we secure the pawn and ensure its advance. Okay, I don't think he's going quick enough here. Check. Check. Take away his counterplay. Now, you know what? I can take. Now I'll take with the rook. Oops, he got the d3. Well, I'm not worried about that. I have two great passed pawns. And it's time to get them going. Check. Build a bridge on him. I may mess this up, but that's what happens when you're playing quick chess. Things just don't work like you want. Okay, he's going to take there. So what's happening here? He can't play d2, he can't play c3. He's messed up. Pawn there, pawn there. Yeah, I got it. Check. I'm going to take here and game over. Well, that was lucky. Stupid blitz chess. Okay. Now I play for first. I don't know who I play, but we'll see what happens. Well, thanks for watching. 15-0 is just not good chess. But if you found it entertaining, thanks for watching. I really appreciate the time you took. Thanks. Bye.